He thought he was mocking a beggar. He didn't realize he was mocking a prodigy. Stick around to see why the man who laughed on Monday was begging for a ticket by Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share, because you won't want to miss the ending. Imagine a glittering, glass-walled boardroom. The air is thick with the scent of ambition and expensive cologne. In the center, Mr. Sterling, a CEO in a suit that costs more than some people's annual salary, is doubled over with laughter. Opposite him stands Leo, a 17-year-old in a faded hoodie, clutching a battered wooden violin case held together by duct tape. His father, Elias, the building's janitor, stands a little behind him, holding a mop bucket, his face etched with a familiar weariness. Sterling finally wipes a tear of mockery from his eye, his gaze falling with contempt on Leo's humble instrument. A scholarship, Elias? You want me to fund a scholarship for this? This isn't music, kid. This is firewood. My daughter has a Stradivarius and 3 private tutors. You have a janitor's closet. Elias, though his voice trembles, stands firm. Sir, he's practiced every night for 10 years. He has a gift. Just listen to 1 minute. Sterling snorts, a cruel sound. I don't pay you to listen, Elias. I pay you to scrub the floors. Now get this junk out of my boardroom before I decide you're both a liability. Leo looks down, his knuckles white on the handle of his violin case. He turns, walking out as the heavy glass doors click shut behind them, sealing them out of Sterling's gilded world. Power thinks it owns the air we breathe. It thinks it can silence a song before the first note is even played. But silence is where the storm gathers. While the world slept, Leo played. While Sterling signed checks for his mediocre daughter's debut, Leo played in the dimly lit basement apartment, the haunting, complex, and incredibly fast music filling the small space. It wasn't student music, it was professional-grade fire. His father, Elias, watched from the doorway, his hands raw from industrial bleach, a silent testament to the sacrifices made. But walls have ears, and sometimes even the grittiest subway platforms have surveillance. Far away, in a sleek, dark office, an anonymous figure in a tuxedo, Maestro Vance, scrolled through a grainy viral video on his phone. It was Leo, playing in a subway station near the office, his music cutting through the urban din. Maestro Vance's voice, sharp and decisive, cut through the silence of his office. Find him. Now. Back at the corporate headquarters, it was the day of the Sterling Foundation Gala. Sterling was holding court, boasting to a group of high society donors, his chest puffed with self-importance. Tonight, we celebrate the elite. We celebrate those who were born to lead, not those who were born to follow. Just then, a courier entered, handing Sterling a formal invitation. Sterling opened it with a smirk, expecting it to be for his daughter's next trivial engagement. But as he read the name, his face went utterly pale. The golden ticket, the Carnegie Hall debut. The name on the card wasn't Sterling. It was Elias and Son. Carnegie Hall. The atmosphere was electric. Sterling, fuming, sat in the 3rd row, his wife whispering furiously about how the help had managed to get on stage. The lights went down. The whispers stopped, and out walked the boy with the firewood violin. Leo, small against the gold-leafed grandeur of the stage, wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He was wearing his father's old work jacket, cleaned and pressed, a symbol of everything they had overcome. He looked directly at Sterling, his gaze unwavering. He didn't need a Stradivarius. He had the truth. He lifted the bow. The music began, a physical force that resonated through the grand hall. It was the sound of every floor scrubbed, every insult endured, every late-night practice session in the dark. The audience was spellbound, many weeping openly at the raw power and beauty. Sterling, stunned, whispered to his wife, "This is impossible. That's $1 million performance." The performance ended to a standing ovation that shook the rafters. Maestro Vance walked onto the stage and handed Leo a microphone. A week ago, Leo's voice, clear and strong, filled the hall. "A powerful man told me my music was firewood. He told my father that we were liabilities. He thought that because we clean the buildings, we don't belong in the lights." As he spoke, a giant screen behind Leo flickered to life. It was a recording from the boardroom security camera. The audio crisp, Sterling's cruel laughter echoing through Carnegie Hall. The crowd gasped, the donors looking at Sterling with a mixture of shock and disgust. Justice isn't just served, it's broadcast. Post-concert, the lobby buzzed with reporters swarming Leo. Sterling, ever the opportunist, tried to push through, putting on a fake smile for the cameras. "Leo, my boy, I always knew you had it in you. Let's talk about that scholarship," Sterling began, his hand outstretched. Leo, calm and composed, met his gaze. "Keep your money, Mr. Sterling. My father and I just bought your building." Sterling's jaw dropped. "You what?" Elias, stepping forward, placed a hand on his son's shoulder, a quiet triumph in his eyes. "The board of directors saw the video of how you treat your staff, sir. They didn't think you represented their values anymore. Maestro Vance and his partners, they preferred our vision." The underdog didn't just win the game. He bought the stadium. Leo and Elias walked out of the hall into the crisp night air, leaving a ruined Sterling behind. Never judge a soul by the dirt on their hands. The person you look down on today might be the one you're looking up to tomorrow. The truth always finds a way to the stage. Have you ever been underestimated? Drop a yes in the comments if you've ever proven the doubters wrong. Let's show the world that talent has no tax bracket. As they reached their car, a sleek black SUV pulled up. A window rolled down, revealing a woman with a sharp, cold gaze. She held a file with Leo's name on it, stamped with a stark, red top secret. "You played well, Leo," she said, her voice smooth as ice. "But you have no idea why we really let you on that stage." Leo's triumphant smile faded. He looked at the file. His father's face, next to him, turned ghostly white. The music was a gift, but the invitation was a trap. The engine of the black SUV idled like a growling predator. Leo stood frozen, the applause of Carnegie Hall still ringing in his ears. But the cold stare of the woman in the window made the summer night feel like midwinter. "Get in," she commanded. Her voice wasn't an invitation, it was a deadline. Elias, the man who had faced every corporate bully with a silent dignity, was trembling. He didn't look at the woman. He looked at the top secret file in her hand. He knew that crest on the folder, the seal of the Global Heritage Syndicate. They didn't fund musicians. They funded shadows. But sometimes, the spotlight is just a target. Stick around to see the secret Leo's father kept for 18 years. A secret that's about to change everything. Inside the SUV, the doors locked with a heavy, pressurized thud. The woman, known only as Director Vane, tossed the file into Leo's lap. He opened it, and his breath hitched. There were photos of his firewood violin. Not just photos of it, but X-ray scans. Hidden inside the ancient wood of the violin's neck wasn't just craftsmanship. It was a series of microscopic etch codes. "Your father isn't just a janitor, Leo," Vane said, her eyes reflecting the passing streetlights. "And that violin wasn't a gift from a thrift store. It's the key to a Swiss vault containing the lost assets of the Sovereign Philharmonic. Assets that went missing during the war. Assets worth $300 million. Leo looked at his father. Elias's head was bowed. "I didn't want this for you, Leo," he whispered. "I wanted you to be a musician, not a target." The underdog didn't just find his voice. He found a legacy that people would kill to own. The pressure is rising, and the song is about to get dangerous. Suddenly, the SUV swerved. A massive black truck slammed into their side, glass shattering, the screech of metal tearing through the night. The syndicate wasn't the only one looking for the codes. Out of the smoke stepped a team of mercenaries, led by a face Leo recognized. Sterling's head of security. Sterling hadn't just lost his building. He was losing his mind. He didn't want the violin for the music. He wanted the $300 million to buy back his empire. Hand over the boy and the wood, the lead mercenary growled, leveling a weapon. Director Vane pulled a sleek, silver device from her pocket. "Leo," she hissed, "if you want your father to live, you play. Now." In the middle of a war zone, Leo screamed. The codes are acoustic sensitive, she yelled over the sound of gunfire. The vault only opens to a specific frequency. The Caprice number 24 played perfectly. If you miss a single note, the drive inside the violin self-destructs. And so do we. Most musicians play for fame. Leo was playing for his life. Leo grabbed the bow. His hands were shaking, glass shards biting into his palms. He tucked the violin under his chin. The world around him was chaos, bullets ricocheting off the armored SUV, the roar of engines, the screams of the city. He closed his eyes. He didn't think about the money. He didn't think about Sterling. He thought about the rhythm of his father's mop hitting the floor for 18 years. He thought about the truth. He played. The music was no longer a song, it was a weapon. As he hit the high frequencies, the violin began to glow with a faint blue light. The etched codes in the wood began to vibrate, sending a signal through the syndicate's satellite link. One note off. That's all it would take. In the face of power, the small find their strength. In the face of death, the artist finds his soul. As Leo hit the final impossible crescendo, a pulse emitted from the violin, an electromagnetic burst, so precise it fried the electronics of the mercenaries' weapons and vehicles. Total silence fell over the street. The vault was open, but the money didn't go to Vane, and it didn't go to Sterling. Leo had redirected the signal. What did you do? Vane roared, looking at her darkened tablet. I didn't play for your vault, Leo said, his voice cold as steel. I played for the scholarship of the underestimated. Every cent of that $300 million just went into a public trust. You can't kill a ghost, and you can't steal from a world. The police sirens began to wail in the distance. Vane cursed and vanished into the shadows before the lights arrived. Elias hugged his son, tears streaming down his face. They were standing in the middle of a ruined street, but for the first time, they were truly free. True power isn't what you keep, it's what you give back. Leo exposed the greed of the elite and turned a hidden treasure into a beacon of hope for every kid with a dream and a broken instrument. Character is what you do when the world is watching, but integrity is what you do when the lights go out. If you believe that truth is louder than money, comment freedom below. Leo and Elias walked toward the flashing lights, thinking the nightmare was over. But as Leo put the violin back in its case, he noticed a small compartment had popped open during a blast. Inside wasn't a code. It was a photograph. It was a picture of a young Mr. Sterling standing next to Leo's mother, and they were both holding the same violin. The battle for the money was over, but the battle for the bloodline has just begun. The photograph was a lightning bolt in Leo's hand. In the grainy, yellowed image, a young, smiling woman held the very same violin Leo had played at Carnegie Hall. Standing beside her, with his arm draped around her waist, was a young, dark-haired man. He didn't have the cold, cruel eyes of the billionaire Leo knew today, but the jawline was unmistakable. It was Mr. Sterling. The man who tried to crush him wasn't just his enemy. He was his history. You followed the music this far. Now, stay until the final note to see the truth that $1 billion couldn't bury. If you believe justice always wins, hit that like button right now. The night air felt heavier as Leo showed the photo to his father. Elias's face didn't just turn pale, it turned to stone. For 18 years, Elias had been a janitor, a ghost in the hallways of Sterling's empire. Now, the silence was finally breaking. She was the greatest violinist I ever met, Elias whispered, his voice cracking. Your mother, Maria. She and Sterling were prodigies together. But Sterling didn't have her soul. He had greed. He stole her compositions, patented her techniques, and built his first million on her genius. When she found out, he didn't just fire her, he erased her. He used his power to blacklist her from every stage in the world. Leo's blood turned to ice. And you, Dad? You were there. I was a stagehand who loved her, Elias said, a spark of fire in his tired eyes. When she died of a broken heart, I took you, and I took that violin. I became a janitor in his building to keep an eye on the man who stole her life. I waited for the day her music would finally be the one thing he couldn't control. The janitor wasn't hiding from the world. He was waiting for the world to hear the truth. But the revelation wasn't over. As the sirens grew louder, a fleet of black sedans screeched to a halt, surrounding the wreckage. Out stepped Sterling himself, disheveled and desperate. He wasn't looking at the money or the mercenaries. He was looking at the violin. "Give it to me, Leo," Sterling pleaded, his voice stripped of its usual arrogance. "That violin, it's not just wood. There's a second compartment. A legal document Maria hid inside the frame. If that document goes public, I don't just lose my company. I go to prison for life for what I did to her." Leo looked at the battered instrument. He realized that all the laughter in the boardroom, all the insults, were just Sterling's way of trying to scare them away from the truth. He was terrified of a teenager with a piece of firewood. The powerful only mock what they fear, and Sterling was looking at his judge and jury. "You called this firewood," Leo said, his voice echoing in the quiet street. "You told my father we were liabilities. But my mother's music is a debt you can never repay." Sterling lunged for the violin, but Leo didn't move. He didn't have to. From the shadows, the crowd that had followed the chaos, the reporters, the musicians from Carnegie Hall, and even the underestimated workers from Sterling's own building, stepped into the light. Dozens of phones were recording. The world was watching in real time. Leo took a small, silver pin and pressed it into a hidden notch on the violin's tailpiece. A small scroll of vellum, thin as a butterfly wing, slid out. It was a signed confession and a transfer of rights, witnessed and sealed before Maria passed away. Exposure isn't just a moment. It's a revolution. As the police moved in to take Sterling into custody, the billionaire fell to his knees. The empire built on theft was crumbling in the dirt of a New York street. The underdog hadn't just won a scholarship. He had reclaimed a legacy. 1 week ago, he was a janitor's son. Today, he is the owner of the truth. 1 month later, the Sterling corporate headquarters has a new name carved into the stone: the Maria Heritage Center. Leo didn't sell the building. He turned it into the world's largest free music school for children who have nothing but a dream. Elias no longer carries a mop. He sits on the board of directors, ensuring that no one is ever called a liability again. Never let the world tell you that your voice doesn't matter because of where you start. The loudest songs often come from the quietest rooms. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to be silenced by those who think they are louder than the truth. If this story touched your heart, subscribe, like and share it with someone who needs to know their value. Comment truth if you're proud of Leo for standing his ground.